Stop motion is a technique that has been existed for over 100 years. Stop motion is where you place an object in front of the camera and take a picture, then move it slightly. By varying the distance of the object between frames, you can make the object appear to move faster or slower. You do this until you have a story, and when you string these images together, the object appears to move. In old stop motion video, they had 12 frames per 1 second of the stop motion animation, but now it's 24 frames per second.
They transform.
Stop frame is similar to stop motion, but stop frame is where you stop on a frame, then take an object out of the frame, which made the object seem to magically disappear. The frame rate for NTSC TV is 29.9 frames per second. For PAL TV is 25 frames per second. And the current motion pictures is 24 frames per second. Here is an example of the different frames per second. Here is 3 frames per second. It looks very jumpy. 6 frames per second is still a bit jumpy but watchable. 12 frames per second, you can see the arms is not as jumpy as 3 FPS. 12 frames per second is the same FPS as the old stop motion animation, like the Wallace and Gromit clay animation. 12 FPS is very watchable. It's not too jumpy, which made it easier to see small body expression.
Phenakistoscope was introduced by physicist Joseph Plateau and his sons. It's got 2 wheels with sequences of animations around the wheel, which you would mount in front of a mirror and spin it looking through the slit onto the wheel to see the moving image. Zoetrope was created by William George Horner in 1833 or 1834. The zoetrope works the same way as the phenakistoscope, but it's more convenient. The zoetrope uses a strip of pictures which is placed inside a revolving drum with slits between the pictures. Praxinoscope was invented in France in 1877 by Charles-Émile Reynaud, and it's an improved version of the zoetrope. It has a mirror in the middle which replaces the slits for more brighter and less distorted pictures. Then in 1889, kinetoscope was designed by Edward Muybridge, and it's to be viewed by one individual at a time through a hole in the top. The kinetoscope was used for film to be viewed. It works by viewing a negative film through a light. Film projectors work in the same way, but the light is more strong so it can project onto a background. George Méliès was one of the first to develop stop action. Here in his 1902 movie Viaje a la Luna, the part of the film where the rocket hits the moon was done by stop motion. The technique didn't stop there. James Stewart Blackton's Princess Nicotine, 1909, the stop motion was more complex and more developed than Méliès' 1902 stop motion. As time went on, stop motion techniques got more and more developed. 1933, Willis O'Brien, King Kong. O'Brien has a specially made King Kong armature. This made the character's movement look more smooth. King Kong was the first to use this kind of technique, which was sensational at the time. Ray Harryhausen went on to develop the stop motion technique shown here in 1963, Jason and the Argonauts. Jan Svankmajer, 1988, Alice's stop motion was much better finished off, and the movements were much smoother than Ray Harryhausen's. The characters are also more detailed and more developed.
The visual effects goes on to be used and developed like here. Here we see a time-lapse of the crew animating the ATA in Star Wars. The technique is time-consuming, but it's very easy to do and cheap depending on what you're doing, unlike the other techniques like CGI or computer-generated imagery. Is a 3D computer special effect which require a lot of skills and expensive programs, and if not done well, the object can look not realistic. But the program are getting more and more easier to use, less time consuming when you got the object made, and cheaper in the long run.